Well, we are live on Fort Myers Beach this morning, working to bring you the latest on a developing crime scene. I can tell you that Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marceno, he just arrived on scene. We expect to bring you a live update coming up later on Fox 4 Morning News. I will be breaking down the latest details for you coming up.
All right, also at 7 this morning, after facing a lot of pushback and several lawsuits, the Trump administration has decided to reverse its ruling, now allowing international students to stay in the United States for this upcoming school year. We're going to tell you why experts say this is good for the economy. Plus.
And I'm Lisa Greenberg, coming to you live from RSW this morning. One of the concourses is reopening here as more travelers decide to take to the skies. But this is all happening as COVID-19 cases continue to surge here in Florida. So I will have what you need to know before you travel coming up in just a few minutes.
And of course, we want to get you a check of your weather as you're waking up on this beautiful Wednesday morning, heading out there. Who better to let us know what the humidity test than Lisa? How's it looking out there, Lisa?
It's pretty humid, but I've got to say I was outside on Monday morning and it was just sweltering hot. This morning there's a bit of a coolness to the air, which is pretty good. I don't know if my photographer Juan would agree with me necessarily, but it's definitely feeling decent out here, especially compared to what it's been like the last few days.
We'll take decent. We like decent.
Yeah, you know, and Lisa, boy, Monday, we had heat index values at 4 o'clock of 101 in parts of Collier County. Monday was miserable. Today, it's still humid out there, but not nearly as bad. We do have a few showers on the radar, and most of these are staying offshore here of southwest Florida. And you can put this into motion over the past hour, and you can see them developing there just offshore of the Lee Collier line. I'll move this radar map a little farther to the south so you can pick these up here, developing off Bonita Springs and Pelican Bay, and they're just kind of drifting there over the open waters. Now to the north, a couple of other showers just off Boca Grande, but the story is the temperatures. Yesterday at this time, we were around 83, 84 degrees in Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. We're in the upper 70s, so Lisa is right. It's a little cooler out there. And the dew point values, well, they're still high. You factor in that humidity, and it still feels like the mid to upper 80s in some spots. Now, we're going to warm up pretty quickly here. We'll eventually be up in the 90s. But notice at 1 o'clock, the forecast has those temperatures dipping. That's due to those showers and thunderstorms. 60% chance of rain today. We'll talk more about it coming up in a bit.
All right, Trent, let's head outside, give them a check of the forecast and also what the morning commute looks like. Here's I-75 near Kings Highway. Not too many people along this stretch of I-75. So if you're here, this is part of your usual morning commute. You're looking good. Now, if you're headed down closer to Bonita Springs, that's a different story. Switching over to maps, I can show you we just had a crash pop up I-75 southbound. It's right before Bonita Beach Road. Now, right now, FHP says the road is clear, but we're starting to see in the southbound lanes that hue of yellow pickup. So even if they are off to the side of the road, onlooker delays are definitely a possibility. Also keeping my eye on Colonial Boulevard this morning. You can see right now headed eastbound right before I-75, looking a little slow. Also starting to see traffic pickup along US 41 southbound. So again, our usual morning congestion spots are starting to build up. That's your morning traffic.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. And we are continuing to follow breaking news out of Fort Myers Beach this morning. All morning long, since before the sun rose, there has been a very large Lee County Sheriff's Office presence, and it's right outside of the Lani Kai Beach Resort. Our Jessica Alpern has been live there all morning. She's gathering details. And Jessica, you said that the sheriff just arrived on the scene?
Yeah, that's right, Amy. And all morning long, I've told you this has been certainly a heartbreaking and emotional morning. We have seen a number of people out here on Estero Boulevard in tears. I can tell you, I just witnessed a conversation between Sheriff Carmine Marceno and a man who says his brother is a victim of whatever deputies are investigating out here. And he says that his brother's body is still on the ground as detectives work to investigate. So certainly some heavy stuff out here this morning. And that's exactly why Sheriff Carmine Marceno is out here working to investigate alongside those detectives. You can see him right there along Estero Boulevard. He's working to gather more information because coming up in just a little under an hour, he's expected to address the media with an update. So that is when we hope to learn exactly what deputies are investigating. But I want to have my photographer Lyle pan over here to the left so you can get a live look at the scene. So you can see the parking lot of the Lani Kai still roped off by crime scene tape. And we see at least 3 CSI units still there. So deputies are still working to gather evidence. We still see family members out here this morning working to figure out exactly what happened as well. Again, that live update from Sheriff Carmine Marcino expected at 8 o'clock this morning. We will bring it live to you, so stick with us on Fox 4 Morning News at 8. We're now live on Fort Myers Beach. Jessica Alpern, Fox 4 in your corner.
All right, thank you, Jessica. An infectious disease expert from the University of Miami is now dubbing Florida the epicenter of the world when it comes to COVID-19. That's as our state surpasses 290,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus and more than 4,400 deaths across the state of Florida. But despite those numbers, a lot of businesses are continuing to reopen. Lisa is joining us. She's anchoring this morning from Southwest Florida International Airport, and that's where one of the concourses actually just reopened after being shut down for a while. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Amy. Yeah, it's interesting the timing of all of this. That concourse was shut down because of COVID-19. They really needed to consolidate resources, consolidate staff, and cut back on costs. And it's interesting to see that it's now reopening because there are even travel restrictions for Floridians traveling to other parts of our country right now because of the surging COVID-19 cases we are seeing at this time. Now, they closed this concourse, Concourse C, back in April. That's when COVID-19 was really ramping up here in our state. So they shut down that concourse. And this impacted the Delta and United passengers. And starting this morning, all Delta and United passengers will be able to go back to that Concourse C. They can do security screenings there. They can also prepare for their flights there. The airport says it is implementing new social distancing and cleaning measures, though, because of COVID-19, just to make sure passengers feel safe as they travel through the airport. Now, we are also keeping an eye on our school systems as they start to reopen here in Southwest Florida in August. And we know when it comes to Collier County, they are planning to return to school 1 week later than initially planned. So they were initially supposed to start a week before this, but now they're starting on August 19th. This is to try to help teachers and staff get prepared. There will be different learning options for the upcoming school year, including virtual and in-person classes. And while many are concerned about what could happen if they reopen, the district says they have to reopen because of an executive order from the State Department of Health.
Parents, I would just say I'm asking you to please understand that we hate that we're even having this discussion. And you know, we know it's not going to make everybody happy.
Now, to keep students and staff safe, the district is increasing cleaning and hand washing on campus. Masks and protective goggles will also have to be worn on school grounds and buses at all times. Meanwhile, the Lee County School District wants to help ease parents' minds ahead of the upcoming school year. So they're holding a live Facebook Q&A today to answer any questions you have about their plans, including virtual learning and other instructional models. You can submit your questions by email. You can see the address here on your screen. And they say that district administrators will be on hand with answers to those questions. It will be on the Lee School's Facebook page starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Now, we are learning this morning that foreign students studying here in the U.S. are able to stay right where they are. This is after facing fierce criticism. The federal government is now reversing course on a policy that initially said that those students would have to go back to the countries they came from if the in-person classes aren't going to be happening. Fox's Marianne Rafferty has the details this morning.
A big win for international college students. In a swift reversal, the Trump administration backing down on a policy banning foreign students from staying in the U.S. if their schools held classes entirely online. The decision bringing relief to more than 1 million international students studying in the U.S. who would have faced deportation if they didn't transfer or leave the country voluntarily.
It was inhumane and unfair because most of us have already paid fall tuition. We already signed our releases. We already registered for classes.
Immigration officials issued the ruling last week, but were quickly met with 8 lawsuits and backlash from hundreds of colleges and universities. Many of them argued they rely heavily on revenue from international students who often pay full tuition, while adding the policy is simply unfair.
Had the ruling stood, it would have placed institutions at a terrible dilemma as to whether to meet the safety needs of the students or to see to it international students could complete their education.
International students will now be allowed to stay in the U.S. regardless of their school's plan for the fall. But immigration rights advocates worry this isn't the end of the story.
I am worried that the government could come back and try to institute a limited version of this policy.
The economy itself also would have suffered. One analysis shows international students contributed $41 billion from their jobs during the 2018 academic year. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
Well, last night, the Collier County Commission held a meeting to discuss enforcing a mandatory mask order. Dozens of people also showed up to ask county leaders to defund the sheriff's office. The group gathered outside the government building, and each one signed up to speak at the board during that public comment. It was at the end of the meeting. Since it wasn't on the agenda, they did have to wait to speak. We also saw people speaking up, though, to counter that defunding message.
A lot of money goes to the police, and we hope that if we can kind of spread the wealth towards different areas, it could help things in a social matter, like society in general.
We are not a country without our military and police. It's just not. You can have the best jobs, you can have the best schools, but if you don't have a safe society, it's not going to help.
And demonstrators with the Black Lives Matter movement said that they wanted to make a point that those marches we saw in Naples last month were not the end of their activism, and they say they will keep pushing for change.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk more about an increasing chance of rain, but a pretty shot there of a couple of showers developing just north there of the Sanibel Causeway. That's what you're looking at here from our Skycam. We'll talk more about your forecast coming up in a bit.
But first, we want to give you a check of your traffic hotspots, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys at Farah & Farah.
My brother Chuck and I grew up in a close-knit family. We knew that whatever happened to any of us affected all of us.
If you or a loved one has been hurt, your problems become our problems. Farah & Farah, protecting you and your family since 1979.
Good morning, guys. It is that time. It's Pet of the Week. Here at Gulf Coast Humane Society, this is our Pet of the Week, Noelle. I already love her. So we're going to introduce you to her coming up after the break. You're watching Fox 4 Morning News.